I'm Max Lopez, and this is the Blue Wave. Just hours after JD Vance and Tim Walz's vice presidential debate, where one of the most consequential moments is where Tim Walz pushed JD Vance on whether or not he accepts that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. We have Jack Smith unsealing a new indictment of Donald J. Trump in relation to his actions on and around January 6th in an attempt to overturn what was a free and fair election by the people of the United States of America. Now, we got an article here from Politico that shares 11 of the most damning details from the new unsealed indictment. A lot of it is stuff that we've kind of speculated on before, and we've kind of had a sense of some of what these details say, but it is very, very stark to see it laid out in the way it is. And I'm not sure about you guys, but I will always remember where I was and the feelings I had turning on the TV on that fateful day and seeing people rushing the Capitol and fighting with police officers and hand-to-hand combat. That was something I will never forget. And it's something that really propelled me to do what I'm doing now and even making these videos, and really propelling me to kind of stand up to Donald Trump and fascism and MAGA. So let's go ahead and look at these 11 damning details in Jack Smith's new brief in the Trump election case. Again, very consequential that this is coming out just after Tim Walz pushed on JD Vance. So let's read the article here. Special counsel Jack Smith won't get a chance to bring his best criminal case against Donald Trump to trial before the 24 election. And if Trump wins, Smith probably will never get that chance. But on Wednesday, the public got its most complete look at the evidence Smith has amassed to try to prove that the former president orchestrated criminal conspiracies as he sought to overturn his loss 4 years ago. In a 165-page legal brief unsealed by a federal judge, albeit with some redactions, the special counsel fleshed out detailed evidence he would use against Trump at trial if the case ever makes it that far. Smith also presented his arguments for why Trump is not immune from the charges, despite the Supreme Court's ruling over the summer that granted presidents broad immunity for official acts. Okay. Alone with his phone, at 2:24 p.m. on January 6th, as Trump supporters were attacking the Capitol, Trump took to Twitter to condemn Vice President Mike Pence, saying Pence lacked courage because Pence had resisted Trump's pressure to intervene in the Electoral College certification. According to Smith's prosecutors, Trump was alone in the White House dining room when he sent that tweet. Trump's aides had left him there after failing to persuade him to call on his supporters to leave the Capitol. The defendant personally posted the tweet at a point when he already understood the Capitol had been breached, prosecutors wrote. Trump asked, "So what?" The tweet criticizing Pence coincided with one of the most perilous moments of the riot, the precise minute Pence was being evacuated from his Senate office to a loading dock below the Capitol. Rioters had come within 40 feet of where he was sheltering just before that moment. When Trump was told by an aide of Pence's evacuation, prosecutors say Trump responded, "So what?" Trump's first call for calm, which advisors viewed as insufficient, came 14 minutes later. "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful." Disregarding the results. According to prosecutors, at one point during Trump's bid to overturn the results, a Trump White House aide overheard Trump telling his daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner, "It doesn't matter if you won or lost the election. You still have to fight like hell." The comment was allegedly made on Marine One. Real interesting there, him saying it doesn't matter if you won or lost the election. That's a little more insight into kind of this discrepancy that apparently existed between what Trump actually thought about the results of the election and what Trump knew in his heart of hearts and what Trump was publicly saying to his massive amount of supporters about the election being fraudulent. We know that Donald Trump knows he lost because most of his most ardent supporters and people closest to him were telling him that time and time again, but he just wouldn't listen and barged on through with this conspiracy theory, peddling it to anybody that will listen to him. And unfortunately for our country, there was quite a few willing participants to go along with his conspiracy theory in the hopes of gaining some sort of political power or retaining political power in the case that Donald Trump ultimately was able to stay in office. Total traitors to the country. And this is a good reminder that Donald Trump is a traitor and supporters of Donald Trump are traitors to America. Let's keep going here. Some damning stuff here. Inventing statistics. Prosecutors said they would prove at the trial that Trump and his allies often made up statistics about voter fraud from whole cloth. For example, Trump and allies allege that 36,000 non-citizens have cast ballots in Arizona, changing the figure to a few 100,000 5 days later, eventually revising it back to bare minimum 40 or 50,000, then to 32,000, and back up to the original number of 36,000. There's no fraud in the 2020 election. There was no fraud. In fact, the cases of fraud that we know of and that are verifiable are often were often Republicans who were voting twice for Donald Trump. There was no fraud in the 2020 election. This is Donald Trump's big lie, right? That he has to tell because his ego can't possibly shoulder the burden of a valid electoral loss. He can't possibly be told, Donald Trump, you're fired, which is exactly what the American people told him on election day in 2020. And the only way to wrap his mind around that is to make up bogus claims that there's a bunch of fake votes out there and just make up the number, right? Was it 32,000 votes? Was it hundreds of thousands? Was it 36,000 votes? Doesn't matter, right? Just claim it was fake, claim it was fraud when there wasn't. And the numbers don't actually matter because they're literally made up, as this article is pointing out. Promises of broken evidence. 1 week after Election Day in 2020, Trump told then Governor Doug Ducey, Republican Arizona, that he was packaging up fraud evidence to share with him, prosecutors wrote, but Trump never provided it. Oops, let me switch back to the article there. Sorry about that. Ducey told Trump that Arizona was all but lost, comparing it to being in the ninth inning, 2 outs, and the defendant was several runs down, Smith's brief recounted. Mocking Sidney Powell. After a Fox News host called out Trump, aligned lawyer Sidney Powell, for making bizarre claims about Dominion voting machines, Trump called on her speakerphone. On the November 20th, 2020 call, Trump muted his line and mocked her to 2 aides, calling her claims about the election crazy and making a reference to Star Trek, prosecutors contend. On another occasion, he called Powell unhinged. Though it's not referenced in Smith's new filing or in his indictment, Trump later considered naming Powell as a special counsel to investigate election fraud, and he considered a proposal she crafted to seize voting machines from swing states for a forensic inspection. Fascism. That's what that is. That's what fascists do. Seizing voting machines. Trump's January 5th call to Steve Bannon. Prosecutors who had more access to telephone records and emails in the congressional committee that investigated January 6th alleged that Trump spoke to ally Steve Bannon by phone on January 5th, less than 2 hours before Bannon issued a prescient and provocative prediction on his War Room podcast that all hell is going to break loose on January 6th. A preview of forensic evidence. Prosecutors plan to have an FBI computer forensic examiner testify about Trump's phone use on January 6th. They say it will show which news and social media apps he had on his phone and will reveal that Trump was on Twitter for much of the day. Prosecutors also plan to show at the trial what Fox News was broadcasting at specific times during the day, since Trump had it on in the dining room and was watching coverage of the riot. Make them riot. Well before January 6th, an unidentified Trump campaign employee enthusiastically spoke of the potential for a riot in Michigan. The employee, whom prosecutors described as a co-conspirator, allegedly sought to create chaos at a polling center in Detroit when it became clear a batch of election results favorable to Biden was legitimate. Find a reason it isn't, the alleged co-conspirator said to a colleague, prosecutors wrote. When the colleague said an outbreak of violence appeared imminent, the campaign employee replied, "Make them riot, do it." So we know that violence was always in the cards and always part of the plan on January 6th. And violence was the last resort option. We've heard Trump and a lot of other people in the right wing and MAGA try to pretend like they were so aghast at what happened on January 6th and that it was a group of bad actors that went too far and it was mainly a peaceful protest outside of a few bad apples who made the situation worse for everybody. It's just totally not true, okay? These supporters were lied to in the first place to make them be there, to believe that there was some sort of fraud against Donald Trump in the election. And then they were, up until the very, very minute of what went down on January 6th when the Capitol was breached, they were lied to and encouraged to spread this big lie about the results of the election. So it's, the Republicans can turn around and put all the blame on the Proud Boys or on any of these other right-wing groups that were there, or say that it was a few people that went too far. But violence was always planned for that day if Trump didn't get his way as a last resort effort. And we know that it was most certainly used and hopefully won't be used again. All right, Rudy's rise. Trump sidelined his campaign lawyers on November 13th, 2020, with Bannon informing another Trump campaign advisor and alleged co-conspirator that Trump had replaced them in pecking order with Rudy Giuliani. Bannon said he told Trump that without Giuliani in charge, this thing is over. Trump is in to the end, Bannon added, according to prosecutors. And last but not least, Rudy's follies. Counting on Giuliani didn't turn out so well. Smith's brief includes yet another instance of Giuliani's prolific record of butt dialing and clumsy cell phone use. Prosecutors say he attempted to send a proposed resolution to Michigan lawmakers declaring the election to be in dispute, but he sent it to the wrong number. Never trust on Rudy Giuliani to be a reliable guy. That's just not a good plan. So wow, guys. Donald Trump is a traitor to this country, and the reason that the Supreme Court felt it was necessary to grant presidential actions immunity in carrying out presidential duties is because of how damning these details are and how bad of a trial and how bad of a look a trial would be on this scale for Donald Trump, and how much these details flesh out and expose and bring to light exactly what Donald Trump's plan was for that day, and that Donald Trump was not, in fact, aghast at what was happening on that day. He was not surprised. He was not upset. He got exactly what he wanted in his supporters attacking the Capitol. And we know that, based on these details, even after the supporters were already in the Capitol, Donald Trump was still egging them on and was still hopeful that he would get his way through political violence. So when Joe Biden calls Donald Trump a threat to democracy, he's not kidding. This was a coup d'etat in the United States of America. We had over 200 whatever years of peaceful transfer of power in this country from one party to the next, from one administration to the next. That had happened. Pretty good track record we had of that. And that all ended on January 6th, 2021. And it's because of Donald Trump's ego and Donald Trump's lack of duty, lack of putting this country and putting the needs of the citizens in this country before himself, before his own political aspirations. And I think that when Jack Smith in these new unsealed indictments, I think there's a case to be made here legally that Donald Trump was not acting in the official duties of the president when he was doing much of what we just went over there. But he was in fact acting as a political candidate, right? A candidate that was seeking to retain power, seeking to keep himself in office. That was not an official duty of the president to lie to his supporters about the election results. That's not an official duty of the president. And, so this whole Supreme Court presidential immunity thing could be overcome, right? There is a chance for that. Unfortunately, it's not going to be before the election, which is what the American people deserved, was to see Donald Trump on trial for his crimes against this country before the election. But and let's keep in mind, Donald Trump, even just recently spoke to this fact that a big reason that he is running and he is wanting to become president again is because he knows that winning the election is one of the only ways to save his butt at this point, right? From all these legal proceedings against him. And we very, very well could see one day Donald Trump on trial for his crimes on January 6, 2021 against the United States of America. And I think that Jack Smith has a very, very strong case here based on what we have seen unsealed. And the timing of this is also seems very significant right after, again, Tim Walz pushed on JD Vance and got a very damning non-answer in one of the most viral, memorable moments from the vice presidential debate this last Tuesday. So that's all I got for you guys in this one. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please be sure to share with someone who's into politics. It helps people see my videos, and it helps YouTube take my channel more seriously and share it to more and more people. But that's all I got for you guys in this one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.